Hey everyone, welcome back to Fierce in the Field. I'm here with Destiny Sanchez. I am so excited to have her in studio. This is our first virtual studio podcast. So happy for you to be the first one, but how are you doing today?
Good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to chat. I feel like we have a lot of similar experiences, so I'm excited to chit chat.
Yeah, do you want to just go ahead and introduce yourself, tell them what you're doing now?
So I'm Destiny Sanchez. I am a current sports reporter and anchor at WFMZ-69 News in the Lehigh Valley, Berks County area. We also cover Philadelphia sports, but I'm entering like month 11 right now, so almost on a year into the job. It's been a whirlwind, but it's been a lot of fun. I also graduated from Penn State last May, or I guess 2 Mays ago now. Yeah, it's been fun covering, Philadelphia, but also the local high schools in the area. It's been a plethora of things to cover, so it's been a fun year so far.
Yeah, absolutely. And are you from Pennsylvania or where are you originally from?
I'm actually originally from New York. I grew up on Long Island. It's a town called Stony Brook. So if anyone's familiar with Stony Brook University, I'm from that town. But grew up a New York sports fan. Baseball was always on in my house. That was the first sport and only sport for a while that I knew. I played softball. That was a big part of my life. And yeah, I'm a New York sports fan through and through. I'm very proud to be from New York.
I love it. Are you a Yankees fan?
I am a Yankees fan. My dad was born and raised in Manhattan and went to high school in the Bronx. And literally his high school, a park, and Yankee Stadium. So after school, he would just go to the games all the time. So it's in my blood.
Yeah, my dad, I have the opposite. My dad was born like right outside of Boston and Concord. So he was a Red Sox fan. So I was raised a Red Sox fan, which is super funny.
Okay, I still like you. Don't worry.
Oh, thank you. No, that must have been funny being on the Cape because I feel like a ton of people were from Boston or Boston area.
Yeah, I kind of like didn't disclose that I was a Yankee fan at first, but went to Fenway for the first time when I was at on the Cape. But I'm sure we'll get into that.
Yes, for sure. Okay, well, I'd love to hear just how everything kind of got started with you. You know, you talked about a little bit playing sports as a kid, but where did that first love of sports come from? What made you want to kind of grow this path and the career that you're pursuing right now?
For sure. I think it was kind of combining two loves. Like I said, I played softball my whole life up until college. I did travel ball, the whole thing. I also played field hockey like middle school through high school. That was also a very positive experience. And really, for the longest time, all I did was play sports. I always had to be active outside in the backyard or at the field with my dad. That was always what I was doing. But I also always had like a creative itch. My sister and I would make like video stars and iMovies. Like in the summer, we would always be making some sort of skit or filming and editing. We just loved that. And then when I got to high school, we had a really strong arts department and we had video production classes at my high school. So I started making short films, so fiction storytelling. And I really enjoyed the process of making a story, coming up with a story. And I don't think many people know this, but I actually got in and I applied and got into Penn State as a film major. I thought I was going to be making movies. And then my senior year was 2020, but the fall that I was, in high school, the last course for video production was documentary filmmaking. And that's when I realized, wow, I really love telling true stories, and the process of telling a story in the right way. So I kind of combined the two, journalism and storytelling with sports. And when I got to Penn State, it's a great place to be pursuing sports. And I went on camera for the first time and I hadn't looked back. So my first time being on camera was at Penn State. But I think that love of storytelling was always there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, for sure. Did you go into Penn State as a film major, or did you know you wanted to switch to journalism right away?
I think pretty right away. My counselor or advisor, I guess, in college, told me to, mix in some journalism classes. I had one film class and one journalism class. And again, it was 2020, so everything was Zoom. But I think I knew pretty early on that it was going to be journalism after, experiencing making, short documentaries. And I think I didn't even realize like it was something that I wanted to do. I think film, just like, I think the concept of creating a story is what I was interested in. And then I pinpointed that it was sports when I got to school.
Yeah, no, that's so funny. I had a little bit of a similar experience. I went into Indiana thinking I wanted to do like entertainment or something in the film industry. And I didn't even think about sports being an option because I didn't play sports in high school. I always was a sports fan, but it was never like, I was never a junior, senior saying I wanted to pursue sports. So I never considered it. Like I did theater, I did acting, I did film stuff in high school. So going to Indiana and figuring out and realizing like, oh, this is like a thing. And I was like really interested in that side of it was something I didn't know until I got to college. So that's, yeah, I have like a little bit of a similar path from that.
I feel like I was watching some of your stuff. I feel like you could honestly do both. Like you definitely have the personality for sports and entertainment. But yeah, I feel like when you get to a big school like Indiana, big school like Penn State, like you kind of broaden your horizons, like, oh, wow, look at all of this different opportunities. So that's, I think, what we were both feeling.
100%. For Penn State, did you always knew you wanted to go to Penn State, always knew you wanted that big state school environment, or was there like a whole process for you your senior year of high school?
Yeah. So I definitely like wasn't too sure. I think once I started looking at schools, I knew I wanted to go to big school. My parents didn't go way to school. I'm the oldest child, so I was kind of the guinea pig, trying to figure things out. But I'm actually extremely grateful. I was on a full ride scholarship to go to Penn State, so that was a big reason why I went. But it was when I was there visiting, I knew right away when I stepped off of the bus. It was snowing, it was January, but I just knew. I felt the family atmosphere. I felt that the Belisario College really emphasized getting involved right away. There's no seniority, how hard you want to work. You can, make the experience you want to make it. And that was really appealing to me, to just, kind of hit the ground running and make my experience the way I wanted it to. And they were going to be behind me throughout that whole process. The staff at Belisario, the new media center in Willard, the Willard building, excuse me. It was just, it kind of surpassed all the schools that I visited, and, the stars aligned that I was able to go there. So it was great.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about, you walked into Penn State for the first time. You knew you're kind of getting involved with film and journalism, but when you first realized you wanted to do sports, what was the first, I guess, I don't know if you guys had like a Penn State TV. I know like Indiana has something similar. What was your first experience with student journalism at Penn State?
Yeah, great question. So I got to Penn State during 2020. So everything was Zoom. All the clubs were Zoom except for one, and it was a Penn State sports talk show. And they figured out, how to have us there during COVID and everything safely. And it was just a family atmosphere. It was an atmosphere that it was a show that you can come on and, make mistakes and grow and just kind of get that first experience on camera. But it was also, I was talking about sports and it's stuff that I know and it's natural. And I did a bunch of MLB segments, but that was my first exposure to student journalism was Penn State Sports Night. I tried to get on camera every single Monday just to get better and better and better. I'm sure if you find my first segment, I was terrible, but that really built my foundation, I think, to then, pursue Penn State athletics, pursue other things. But also, this wasn't student journalism, but the Association of Women in Sports Media was where I met some of my best friends and people that had similar interests, similar ambition that I had. And it was really encouraging to just be in a room full of women who were supporting each other and helping each other, encouraging each other. And those are women that I talk to almost every week to this day. So those two, I think, were very, they influenced the rest of my Penn State journey.
Yeah, I think it was so important, especially like for me, and I'm sure for you, to like have friends that were pursuing something similar, because that ambition is similar and you can relate to each other. And if you're having a bad day or you, I don't know, do something bad in class, it's like good to lean on each other and like have that especially like sisterhood girls in sports media
And
sport there.
for sure. And what I found like so amazing was by our senior year at Penn State football games, I would look along the sideline and it was all of my friends. Like we were all in Awesome together, and it was like we were working the games and following our dreams, but also we were surrounded by some of our best friends. So that was really cool to watch our progression throughout the years.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Can you, I guess, expand a little bit on being in the collegiate space, being a woman in sports media? Because I know, like, at least for me, I had like a good group of girls, but I also noticed it was male dominant. You know, it was all guys running. We had male directors and male producers, and that was a little bit intimidating for me as a freshman to kind of walk into. But I know it's hard to kind of pave your way through that path. How did you do so at Penn State?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I came into Penn State definitely a little more like introverted than I was as I got older, like just kind of navigating that space, advocating for yourself, speaking up for yourself, bringing up ideas. I think, you know, I did have positive experiences, negative experiences, but I think when you have that first moment where you really speak up for yourself, or you really advocate for an idea that you have or a resource that you need, it's almost like a stepping stone to building that thicker skin. So I think I definitely experienced some of that, but I think also it taught me, you know, how to really work and fight for what you know you are able to do. And I think the biggest thing I learned is the worst thing someone could say is no. That's the worst thing someone could say. It's worth it to ask. But, you know, I think that, you know, navigating being women in sports, I was just thinking this before I hopped on the podcast. Like, I think we're all kind of going into the industry at a time where a lot of places want women. Like, they really see that having multiple perspectives, having multiple representation is important, and also just brings a better, you know, report. It brings a better analysis to whatever we're talking about. So it's really exciting when I see people like you or people on social media starting something like Fierce in the Field to, you know, just continue to support other women. So I kind of rambled there, but I feel like we are going into it at a better time, but there's always that moment that you have to, you know, push a little bit or speak up more than your counterparts. So I hope that answered the question. But
yeah, no, absolutely. Do you have like a moment that you remember where you did have to really advocate for yourself and prove yourself, not just as, you know, a young aspiring reporter, but as a woman in the field?
Yeah, I think, you know, this is one that it's kind of weird, but there was one, you know, situation where I think an environment was used to having all men in a press box or all men in that room. And I remember I was getting ready to do like color commentating or play-by-play. And I was the only girl in the press box, and the coaches were in the press box changing behind me. And it was very uncomfortable, and it was clearly something they were used to because it was all men in there, I guess.
Right.
And I remember being like, this isn't right. So I then went and spoke up about it, and they like did something about it. But that was definitely an uncomfortable situation. But
yeah,
I guess more towards like advocating for an idea. I think I'm trying to think of a situation without like specifically saying it, but certain things like, you know, advocating for, I remember I felt it would be useful to have a videographer at a certain shoot. Like, it was you know, a busy event, and I really wanted a videographer there. I couldn't do it all myself, and we've had proven situations where having a videographer would help. And I was like, listen, if I need to find one myself and suggest it to you to hire, like, let's do it. And I remember that was going into my senior year, trying to you know, really take advantage of all the reps I have, make all my content really good to be able to, you know, apply to jobs and everything. And then I did get that videographer, and then all the videos were good. But if I didn't speak up, if I didn't, be like, listen, this is something I think we need, this is something that can make our content better, then we would have settled for, not as good content. So
Right.
I think that's one situation where I found that, speaking up for myself and advocating for a resource that I needed definitely paid off.
Yeah. I think a lot of the times we feel like in like every situation we find ourselves having to advocate for ourselves or having to remind people what we want to do or speak again. Or I interviewed Taylor McGregor. She was one of our first in-person interviews, but she was like, you need to constantly remind your bosses and your higher ups what you're actually there to do and what you actually want to do, the resources you want, the things you want to create. And that's hard, but I think it's a good lesson, especially in college, to learn how to do that, because it does go a long way and it does show, like how passionate you are about something, and you put in the hard work, which is good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit. You were, I don't know, sophomore, junior year of college. You're trying to figure out specifically what you want to do, and you join BTSU, which I know both of our schools have. Talk to me a little bit about your experience with Big Ten Plus, the first broadcast that you did, your first time as a sideline reporter, just how much that meant for you in that moment for you.
Absolutely. So that was my sophomore spring, was my first Big Ten Plus. And I remember my whole sophomore year, my boss, like at Penn State Athletics, we joke about it now, but I sent him 13 emails before he bat an eye at me to try and, I was just really trying to let him give me a chance. I was like, just give me a chance. Let me do a few broadcasts and then we'll go from there. And he really admired that I didn't back down. And we joke about it now that's, I was being very politely persistent. But I did women's lacrosse to start, and it was a great experience. I just think it's awesome that at Big Ten schools, there's an opportunity to be on a, very professional broadcast that's ran by, the athletic department, but also Big Ten Network, that, you can get those real life reps. It's real experience. So I did 2 women's lacrosse games, and I did a softball game. And I remember when they first gave me that chance, they were like, listen, you're not doing, I know Big Ten Plus doesn't involve football, but our athletic department, basically the talent that do Big Ten Plus also are the talent for just their athletic account. So he was like, I'm going to let you do these broadcasts. You're not doing football yet. You're not ready. I was like, okay, that's fine. Let me just prove through the pudding that I can do this. And I did the 3 broadcasts, and then the spring game was coming up. And then he was like, you know what? I think you're ready. We're going to give you a shot. And he then let me do the spring game, do interviews on the sideline. And that's actually how I met my boyfriend that day too. I was doing the interview. But yeah, it was great. And then also my junior year, and then part of my senior year, just getting those consistent reps with basketball, with lacrosse, with volleyball. It also helps me learn a lot about sports maybe I wasn't as familiar with. And then obviously, then being connected with Lisa Byington and having a mentor like her is priceless. I mean, she has been really great to my development. And I'm always forever indebted to my experience with Big Ten Network, my experience with Penn State Athletics, and just the Belisario College in general.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it definitely is a moment to prove yourself. I was also a sophomore when I sidelined for the first time. My first one was women's soccer. And I remember feeling so grateful because I was like, oh, I covered it for student TV station before. So I knew the team, I knew where the record was, how they were doing. So I felt confident in that. But then my second one was wrestling. Knew nothing about the wrestling team, really didn't know about the sport of wrestling. So that it just takes a little bit of grit, and you really have to kind of be a little bit vulnerable and be like, hey, what is this? Or what does this do? Or how is this wrestler doing? Or how did he do last duel? And you have to talk to the coaches and talk to people. And I had to get over the fact that it's not embarrassing to do that. it's not weird to ask questions. You're a reporter and you're also a student. So you're learning and you're trying to kind of work with what you got. So yeah, it definitely builds up a lot of courage. And I'm also very thankful for that program. And I'm glad I get another year to do that. But I'm so curious about Lisa Byington and your process with kind of going through that applications and going through those interviews and how you felt in that moment when you were awarded, you know, most outstanding female broadcaster. That must have been so amazing and special. So
yeah,
a little bit.
absolutely. I can't believe that was like over a year ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, I applied for it my junior year and was a finalist. And Lisa, it just goes to show the type of person Lisa is. She sent me this long like email of feedback of like specific, like every clip that I submitted, just feedback on how I could be better. And I just took it and I was like, wow, like she was so generous with that. Like she did not have to do that. And, you know, seeing people like Reagan and Emma, and what they're up to now, it's just, it's an honor to be among them. And also, Kara, the recent.
Yes.
So yeah, I then applied again my senior year. I'll be honest, to get a little vulnerable, like I was so discouraged my senior year because I thought I wanted to graduate and have my job figured out already, and I didn't. And that's how a lot of people kind of have their experience where they graduate and they don't know, and that's totally okay. But in the moment, I was like so overwhelmed. I was really stressed out, and I got home from Penn State after graduating. I moved out of my Penn State apartment, and I guess Lisa got in contact with my sister, and they created like a FaceTime surprise to let me know that I received the award. And that whole summer, I went up to Chicago in August, but that whole summer, me and Lisa were, you know, talking because I didn't know what job I was going to be doing next, and I felt like I did everything right at school. I did all the things, and nothing was working. But then she just really encouraged me to keep the faith, and that my reel is great. She helped me like reorder my reel. She helped me kind of, you know, decide, like figure out how to reach out to people. But honestly, I think the Big Ten Award also helped with my job hunt, you know, having that on my resume. But then when I went up to Chicago, everyone up there is so nice, and it just like even motivated me even more to try to, you know, maybe work for them one day or get up there again. But I had a whole day with Lisa, a whole day with the execs. I went in the studio, did a few segments. I did a segment with Emily Eman, the volleyball reporter.
Yeah.
She was so nice, and I met her at Penn State a few times. But yeah, it's just was a great experience. But I think the biggest thing that I took away from it is that Lisa is exactly the reputation she has in the media, the reputation that she has with who she works with, just the person she is something that I admire and hope to emulate as I go throughout my career. So yeah, she's just a great person, and anybody that does Big Ten Plus, I'm sure if you reached out to her and, you know, asked for advice, she would very much reply and, you know, want to chat with you. So she's just great. I could talk about her forever, but even just life stuff, like I'll call her on the phone or text her. So she's been great. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think 18-year-old Destiny would say if she saw that you won that award your senior year?
It's kind of crazy because like it's just there was a lot of hard work that went into that. I dedicated a lot of my time at Penn State to broadcasting, and kind of like what we were talking about before, you know, having people around you that support you and, you know, understand what it takes to do a job like this. Sometimes it's hard to explain it to people that, you know, don't fully understand the way TV works. And so, you know, all of the days where all my friends were out doing college stuff and I was out, you know, at a volleyball game or a basketball game doing something I loved, like it all kind of felt like I'm on the right path. I'm doing the right thing. I think 18-year-old me would think it's crazy, but also I think that I wouldn't have changed anything. I would have done it all over again, the same. So yeah, 18-year-old me would think all of this is crazy. Yeah.
I feel like it's just like you would have never, it's so funny to think about, like I like personally, and I'm sure you feel similarly, would never expect to be doing what I'm doing now and as much as I'm doing now. Like at the capacity when I was 18, like I didn't even know I was going to go to Indiana. Like there's just so many unknowns in this short span of 4 years, which I know like college goes by so quickly, but at the same time, it feels like it was a really long and worthwhile period of our lives. But when you think about it, it's like so much could happen in those 4 years, and it's super special.
Absolutely. And I feel like those moments that, I mean, I still have them today where it's like, am I doing the right thing? Am I on the right path? Like, but then you have moments like that where you're like, okay, like that, like the hard work is paying off. And like you said, like the experiences that you have in Indiana, like, I don't think, I mean, it's just amazing what these schools have to offer. So it's awesome.
No, I was literally listening to a podcast yesterday, and it wasn't about sports, it was just about like life in general. But one of the girls was saying, like, you question all the time, like, oh, did I make the wrong decision, or should I have chosen that choice, or chosen that job instead, or moved to this city instead? But reality is, like, you're always going to make the correct choice for you in the moment. And even if it feels wrong, you're going to make it right eventually. So I resonated with that, and I feel like that's kind of in the same area where we're resonating together today.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. Yeah. Oh, this is like very therapeutic for me because there's some days that are like, they're not fun. There's some days that are not fun. But then when you reflect on everything that you've done, and we're not even 25, like there's so many. So yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah, I love it. Talk to me a little bit about your first, we'll get into the Cape because I feel like that could be a long conversation for us, but your very first internship. Tell me a little bit about that application process, where your nerves were, how you kind of grappled onto that big task that you had to do.
Yeah, for sure. So my very first internship was with Penn State Athletics, but it was all behind the scenes stuff. So it was with live production. So actually like all the behind the scenes for Big Ten Plus. Like I think the way Big Ten Plus runs at Penn State is like different than all the other schools, which I wish it ran the way it does at Indiana and Purdue and Michigan State, from what I've heard. But anyways, I was a live production intern, so I was doing like replays, camera operator, all of that kind of stuff. But it taught me what I didn't want to do. It taught me I didn't want to be behind the camera, and that's totally okay. I think sometimes when I like talk to underclassmen or younger girls trying to get their footing at college, I tell them like that first internship, if it could teach you what you want to do. It could teach you what you don't want to do. And that one taught me what I didn't want to do, which is totally okay. But then it also connected me with the people that then hired me to do Penn State Athletics. You never know what seed you're planting. So that one, I think that one taught me what I didn't want to do. But my first internship on camera was with the Charlottesville Tom Sox. It was in Charlottesville, Virginia, with the Valley Baseball League. So it's like the step before the Cape. And I was a multimedia journalist there and did a bunch of interviews. And it was nerve-wracking because I lived with a host family, which was...
Were you the only one?
By myself, and I was in the basement, and I'm extremely grateful for them opening their home to me, but it was definitely an odd experience. But yeah, so I mean, that internship also, there were players that I crossed paths with at the Valley League and that were then at the Cape, so that was kind of cool to watch like the progression of it. And now I'm covering minor league baseball, and some of them are starting to get to AA, so I feel like I'm like following them on their journey. But yeah, those are my first like internships. But again, one taught me what I didn't want to do, and one was a step in the direction that I wanted to go.
Yeah. I always say, like, I know you touched on this a little bit, it is so important to try a little bit of those behind the scene moments because it just helps you understand things a little bit better. Like I know for us, like for our student television, you need to start out in the control room before they can put you at the anchor desk. And it sounds like it's like a hazing ritual, but it's more so like, no, you just need to learn that this is the camera, this is the teleprompter, this is what this is supposed to do. And I think now that I'm a senior, I'm like, oh, everything makes so much sense. And it's fun when we have like freshmen or sophomores that get to shadow us in those moments, because even if we know it's not specifically what they're trying to pursue, it's still cool to teach. And I'm grateful that I'm able to like show other people how to do it, which I think is cool.
Sure. It's always good to know everything. And if there's a situation where you need to be, brought in and you know how to do it. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, I want to talk about the Cape a little bit because I know that was like the big thing that we had in common.
Yeah.
At least for me, I found out about that program probably when I was a freshman or sophomore because I had a family friend that lived up in Orleans, and they were big Firebirds fans. So they were like, oh my gosh, there's this crazy like student media program. How did you first find out about that program? Talk to me a little bit about the application process for you.
Yeah, so I think I just heard about it, just being a fan of baseball and hearing about, the big internships, like the pinnacle internships in journalism, I guess, and like being on camera. And I applied 2 summers in a row and got denied. And then the third summer I got it. So my sophomore and junior, or maybe it was I think I applied to it my freshman year and then I didn't have enough experience. Sophomore year didn't get it. And then my junior fall is when I found out I got it. And then I did it the summer before my senior year, if that makes sense. So, it was just, I think I just was not ready for it. And I'm happy I did it when I did because I felt like I was the stronger broadcaster at that time. And the group of interns we had that year, we were all so close and every day was fun. Even if it was like one of those slower games, like it was just a great group of interns, but also a very talented group of interns. Like we were from all over Big Ten, SEC, Arizona State. Like there was people from everywhere, and it was cool to like talk about our journalism programs and everything. But I think you only asked how the process was, but you
can tell me whatever. I don't care.
But it was a great experience, and like I'm sure as you know, like you were at every home and away game. Like it was a lot. Like I think I counted, it was like 44 games in 56 days, something crazy like that. So, finding a new storyline every week, or every day, finding, in the beginning, there's a lot of turnaround with the players because they're only there for a few days, or they then are there for a few weeks and then they get drafted, or some guys are further into playoffs at their colleges and they don't get there until later. So keeping up with all of those players was, a lot. But we also had a really talented team. I mean, we had Travis Bazzana, we had Charlie Condon, John Spikerman, we had a ton. And then even on other teams, Cam Smith, who got brought up to the Astros. It was great. A summer I'll never forget, and still, all the interns, we still like keep in touch and everything. And now that I'm covering AA baseball, I'm starting to see some of the guys that were either on my team or on Falmouth or, at the Cape, like start to make it to AA. And I'm like, I covered him like way back then. Yeah. So it was fun. So
I know, you're so proud. I'm like, oh my God, wait, I knew him. Like I talked to him. It's such a fun feeling. And I feel like I had a similar experience. I did it summer after my sophomore year. And walking in, the whole broadcast team for Hyannis did it the year before. Okay. So I was super nervous. So I was like walking in, and do you know Bria Lasik?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Bria did it 2 years before, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have like crazy shoes to fill. Like she's so awesome. Everyone was used to working with her. And I guess like when I was coming in, I was so nervous, but everyone was more than welcoming, so nice, so supportive, so willing to help me with hits or storylines, or, there were a couple returning players on my team, and they were like, oh my gosh, last year they did this, so you should definitely talk about this. And it was just, I don't know, I feel like it was a very helpful environment, and not like I don't have that at Indiana, but it was more family. I don't know. It felt like I had like a little bit more of like a broadcast family when I was on the Cape. And I think that was what made it so special.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like all the interns, I feel like I could totally understand, like, going into an environment that, they already kind of have their well-oiled machine, but you killed it. I saw some of your clips. Like you.
Thank you. Girl, so did you. Did you do the All-Star game at all with Nesson, or were you?
I didn't do the All-Star game, but I know Nesson like came to a game at Falmouth, and I did do a hit for Nesson, and then the play-by-play broadcaster said like an inning, I think, for Nesson, which that was really cool to hold like a microphone. But yeah, I feel like it was a great summer to just kind of experiment and see, you know, what works for me, what works like with the broadcasters, and we were lucky. It made our job easier with really talented guys. So it was really cool. Also cool to like go to the different teams like when we were away, like to see how their fields and meet their broadcasters, because like I feel like I connected with a bunch of broadcasters like at the other teams, and then so you never know who you'll cross paths with again. But it just was really cool, and a summer I'll always remember, and hopefully I can go back to Cape Cod just because and go and watch a game one day.
I know. I always see everyone's like the people who I know who are there this summer. I'm like looking at their Instagram stories and their TikToks. And I'm like, oh, I want to go back, because it was genuinely like, and I tell people, I was like, yes, we were so busy. We were doing, you know, like 40-ish games this summer, and it was basically a baseball game every day, but it was so much fun. And
Did you like live with interns, or like what was your living situation like?
Yeah, so we had I lived with interns, so it was me and then 4 other girls. So it was 5 girls in our house. And I remember we found this Airbnb that was, you know, we probably put in all of our life savings for, but it was like one big room with like 3 twin beds. And then we had 2 other rooms with a twin bed each. So we would like shift off who got the solo rooms, and it was crazy. It was very tight, but it was super fun. And I'm grateful that I got to live with, you know, other interns, because I think it just only made us closer. Were you with a host family, or were you with other interns?
We did other interns as well. So it was literally walking distance to the field, walking distance to the beach. Oh, nice. It was like a dream. But we had 3 girls that lived on the second floor, and then 2 boys on the first floor. And I shared a room with, we both went to Penn State together. She was the social media intern, and then I was a sideline reporter, but it was perfect. Everything was so close, and Falmouth was like, well, I guess it would be like Wareham was like the furthest like west, but Falmouth was super easy to get to Boston and everything. But that house was so fun. I mean, it was great, and like it was close to everything. And literally my routine was I would wake up, go walk down to the beach, read my book, do some notes, because the Wi-Fi was good down there, so I would do some notes on my phone, come back home, and then go to the field. I always loved going to Falmouth, because I feel like you guys were so close to everything. Like you had your beach, and then I remember, what was the restaurant called that was on the beach, and it was like super big? Yeah, I know what you're talking about. We always would go. It's right there. I know. I'm forgetting the name, but they had like the best sushi.
Yes,
we would get, like, we would get like shakes, I think. There.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm blanking on the name right now, but I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. No, but I just remember like that area was so cute, and I was always so jealous, because Hyannis was awesome. Hyannis was great because it was like a little town, and it was very like, you had like Main Street, and you had like the ice cream shop and the little boutiques, which was cute, but we weren't walking distance to everything, so we had to drive everywhere. But no, I remember I worked at a golf shop, so mine was like, you're gonna go wake up 6 a.m. in the morning, work, you like 2 hours, I had like 2 and a half, 2 hours to like change and get ready, prep if I needed to, and then head straight to baseball.
Yeah. Wow, that's a grind. You were grinding.
Yeah. Yes. No, it was tough. It was fun.
I know, like, whenever we were excited to go to Hyannis, because they had like a bunch of food places that we didn't have. I think, did they have Chick-fil-A or like Chipotle?
We had,
like, that was the only like Chipotle and Chick-fil-A on the Cape.
Yeah.
So we would leave early to get to Hyannis so we could stop and get food, and then we would go to the game.
Yeah. I remember that was the one thing. I remember we had like a tropical smoothie.
Yes.
Obviously a bunch of Dunkins, but the Chick-fil-A was definitely nice, and the Chipotle. Yeah. What do you think is like everyone always talked about, and I'm sure I talk about this in interviews all the time, and I'm sure you did as well, about like the Cape just being so special for the players, so special for the host families. And it was kind of like a big community like thing. Like everyone loved it. It was just what do you think made that environment so special?
Yeah, I think like you just really can't get that anywhere else. I mean, to have such an intimate environment where like there are hundreds of people that come to these games, but it's not like a big stadium where you're far up, or you're seeing the future of the MLB right there on their journey. And I think, you know, baseball fans, or even just, you know, baseball is just such a summer activity. But if you are that like avid baseball fan, like the concept of seeing someone in their early stages, like there could be the next Aaron Judge on that field, and you never know. Like, so I think that's really cool. I think, you know, the idea of, you know, playing in the sunset is, you know, setting behind the field, and I don't know, it's just like it's like I don't know if this is like the right way to say this, but we always would say it's like the quintessence of Cape Cod. Like it's like the perfect, like it's so to me, baseball is like relaxing. Of course, it's a close game, but like it's intense. But to me, like sitting at a baseball game, especially in a beach town, like that concept, like it's very calm and relaxing and family friendly. So I just think it's such a great concept. And anybody that visits Cape Cod, even if you're just there on vacation, try to fit in going to one of those games, because there's probably one nearby you. So definitely, it's the best. It's hard to describe, honestly.
Like it really was just such a special place. And I think not only for everyone involved with CCBL, but just for the fans and the community. And I remember I always loved meeting people, and I would do interviews with fans. I would be like, oh, we're visiting from California, which is crazy. And they've never heard of this before, but they almost kind of stumbled upon it. And I think that's pretty special, because it is just something that's so unique to the Cape. And then once you kind of realize it, it's like, oh, this is something really cool, especially when you're visiting.
For sure. And like maybe one of those players is on your favorite team one day. Or
right, exactly.
It's really cool to, you know, be like, you know, I saw him when he was only 20, you know, playing on the Cape. So for sure.
Yeah. Is there something that you took away from that experience that you still think about today, or you're still like, oh, I learned how to do this really well, and you're using it in your career today?
Yeah, I think at the Cape, it's really good to find unique stories with different players or their journey. And I think I've always known this, but it really solidified it. And I feel like every step I take, it continues to solidify. I love to interview. Like the concept of like asking a good question, and, you know, just kind of moderating the athletes telling the story. You're kind of guiding the conversation. I just really love that. And I think sometimes, you know, the relationship with the media and athletes is not as smooth as it could be. And I think, you know, if you can create that safe space for an athlete to open up and share their story, it could impact a lot of people. So I just think that the concept of interviewing, asking the right question, but also creating that safe space. You know, I tried, you know, during batting practice to chit chat with the guys, or just, you know, not even talk about baseball, talk about what they did that day.
Yeah.
Like, little things like that, to try and, you know, show them like, listen, like you can open up, like you don't have to have your robot answer with me. Like, yeah, I think I just continue to solidify that I really love interviewing, and I hope that I can, you know, peel back the curtain a little bit more throughout my career.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think I always remember asking them about like their host families and what they did on the weekend, or there was a handful of guys that had like younger kids in their host families. So they would like go outside and play with them or go to the beach with them. And that's kind of where I learned how to be like, okay, these are the things that people like to hear about. And these are the things that also like are kind of unspoken. So that was really a fun thing to learn while I was there as well.
Absolutely. I feel like that's kind of the role of the sideline reporter, right?
Yeah.
Like bringing a perspective that the viewer wouldn't have known beforehand, and you taking that step to be like, asking those questions that aren't really about the X's and O's. You can find unique stories there.
Yeah, absolutely. I do kind of want to shift gears
Yeah.
a little bit. Yes. Okay, let's talk about your job now in Pennsylvania. Tell me about, you kind of had a little bit of a difficult time, and I think a lot of people do, finding that first job post-grad. And I know you talked to Lisa a little bit, but how did you come upon this job, and how did you know that it was the right one for you at the time?
Yeah, so I mean, all my senior year, like my whole senior year was just to apply. My spring semester, all my classes were online. I only had 3 classes left to take.
Okay.
And I in my brain, I was like, I'm going to use this semester and I'm going to network. I'm going to reach out and try to find a job. And nothing was working. I mean, I wouldn't say nothing. I mean, I would set up networking calls, and you never know like what's planting a seed where. And I would just like set up calls to pick people's brains about what they do, and apply to all these jobs, but nothing was sticking. And I was a little hesitant to do local news, to be honest with you, unless it was the right situation. And to be completely honest with you, my news director cold called me for this job. I think I saw the application, but it was like 3 months old, the application. And like in local TV, like sports positions are really rare to come by, and I just assumed it was already filled. That was my mistake. I should have just applied anyways. But he called me and was like, listen, we've been interviewing and we haven't found the right fit, but I saw your reel and I think you're great. And I'm technically in the Philadelphia market with WFMZ, and that's hard to turn down on your first job. Yes. To be able to cover the Eagles and the 76ers and the Phillies and the Flyers, but also all of their minor league teams for the Phillies and the Flyers are in the area as well. And it felt right. I mean, I guess I'm just like a COVID kid, and all my interviews have been on Zoom. And this was the first one that was like, we would like you to come in for the interview and, tour the studios, talk to everybody. And they invited me in, and I spent the whole day there, and it just felt like the right fit. And it felt that they were going to be really encouraging of my ideas and, accepting of my new ideas. Which is really, encouraging. So I went through with it. I did have another job offer, but it was really far away, and it just didn't feel right. My parents were thinking about moving off of Long Island, and I just was like, I don't think I should move far away right now. It just didn't feel right. And I know that some people would say that I was crazy to do that, but honestly, I think sometimes like you got to do what's right for you. You got to move. Like if the job doesn't feel right, the whole time it didn't feel right. So I didn't do it. So then this job, the job I have now, the whole time it just felt right. And like I took it, and it's been great so far. I think one thing that I didn't really think about is the station I'm at, like a lot of the people get this job and they settle down. They buy their house, they get married, they have kids. And everyone around me is in a much different stage of life than I'm in. I'm the youngest person at my station. My sports department's been together for 10 years, and the person I replaced was there for 12. So there was kind of similar to like what you said with Cape Cod, going into a space that was already a well-oiled machine. I was very much going into a space that was already a well-oiled machine, and I'm a 22-year-old. And also it was an all-male sports department, and I am the only girl in the sports department. And so it was a lot of growing pains. I won't lie. In the beginning, it was a lot of growing pains. it was an area that I wasn't familiar with. I started the first week of high school football season not knowing a name of a school, not knowing a name of a coach, not knowing a name of the big dogs on the team. And I had to do a high school football highlights show every Friday night. And I've never done highlights before. Like, it was a lot of growing pains. But it honestly is making me really eager for that second year to start, because I know what I'm going to do. I feel like I know the names. I know what I'm doing now. Like, I can go into the first week of high school football season with my head up high a little bit more. I think I was really hesitant in the beginning because I didn't know anything. So that was really tough because, I made a bunch of mistakes. I wasn't perfect all the time, and I'm definitely a perfectionist. So, I just had to learn to give myself grace. I think I'm still learning that, to be honest with you. Every single new season was something new. Once football ended, then the fall season ended, then there was basketball, and then there was baseball. And luckily, there's a lot of schools in the area that are super strong in their sport, and they've gone far in playoffs and everything. And that made my job easier because they're all really good in this area. There's always been a plethora of things to cover. But I think, I did have a lot of growing pains, and I think that's okay. And I think it's something people don't really talk about in their first job, especially on camera. It's like the camera catches everything. And if you mispronounce something or you do X, Y, Z, like, it feels kind of almost vulnerable, I feel like you're you made the mistake, and everybody in the area like knows you made the mistake. So it's like, but you just gotta learn by doing and brush off those mistakes. But there's a lot to be grateful for as well. I mean, I covered a Super Bowl winning team in my first job. Went to practice, Eagles practice every single week, and then also the Phillies and the AA team, and that is something that I never thought this early in my career I'd be experiencing, being, rubbing shoulders with the NBC Phillies and the Fox 29s and everybody that's the big dogs in Philly. Just never thought it, like we were saying before, like my 18-year-old self would think that I'd be doing right now. So there's so much to be grateful for. And I kind of rambled there for a bit, but I'm honestly at a point right now where I'm just kind of eager for that second year to kick off. And I have a lot of goals for that year, and just the way I want to approach it. I think I was just kind of thrown into the fire, for a lack of a better term, but yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I like that you said you need to give yourself grace, because that's something that I'm working on a lot. And I always say, like, I'm a perfectionist, but I'm a perfectionist that like makes a ton of mistakes. Like, I had an internship this past semester, and I did a great job. I made great connections with people, but I for sure made a lot of mistakes. And I would get on myself. I'd be like, why am I doing this? And it's because it's a new environment. It's new work. It's new people. It's a new place. And you kind of have to learn that and accept that. And I think that was something that I learned this year as well. And I'm sure I'll learn it all over again during my first job of post-grad. But you said you're the only woman in your division, in your team. How have you navigated that? Because I know we talked about it a little bit being in school, but it's different when you're working with people so much older than you and who you feel like you might have the need to impress.
Absolutely. I think, my sports director, Dan Moscartolo, I mean, the whole time he's been very encouraging of, my ideas, and also, providing feedback and, different things like that. It's been I've heard of like my peers at other stations maybe having negative experiences, but I think my experience so far, I think it's more me being hard on myself versus, people, my higher ups, being hard on me, if that makes sense. But I think, yes, being the only girl, there's different things. Like, I can't just put my mic pack in my pocket. Like, if I'm wearing a dress, like it's a little bit more complicated, like little things like that. Like, or just, having to make time to do my makeup, or having time to, if I'm out at a soccer game and it's pouring rain, like, I'm going to need a little bit more time to get ready to be, studio ready to be on camera. So things like that, I think, they're great. I mean, they've been able to adjust, but I think, that pressure there, I think the pressure to perform is definitely there. And I think I'm still kind of working through that because I just felt like, I was going into a space where everyone was a seasoned vet and I'm an infant. Like, it's like I am just getting started.
Yeah.
So I think I need to give myself more grace. I'm very hard on myself. I'll be honest with that. Like, I am very hard on myself. I want everything to be perfect and everything to look great. And because I kind of feel that pressure, like I need to look like I fit in, I guess, if that makes sense. Like, but like, then again, I'm just getting started. There's a lot of things I still have to learn. But it's been an encouraging environment. But I think, yeah, like to your point, like the pressure to perform, being around a lot of men and being the only girl, and I'm pretty sure we have a Spanish reporting team, but I'm pretty sure I am the only Hispanic person that's not on the Spanish team. And so like that, it's just like, I feel like a little bit, again, just going back to that point, like the pressure to perform is always there. And I think wherever I go, I'm going to feel that. But I think I'm just working on my confidence, working on finding ways to navigate that. But I think, again, kind of going back to what I was talking about before, like everything has been new. It's a new area. So I think, they also understand that. So I'm just kind of really eager to like show what I got in this next year.
Yeah. What advice would you give to someone like myself or other girls going into their senior year, not only trying to look for that post-grad job that fits them and fits their values and, what they want to pursue, but just getting started in it? You're entering this new professional space. I think, what would your overall advice be for someone experiencing that for the first time?
Yeah, I think just trust the process. And I think the right situation will always find you. I always said this, like, the same with like picking your college. Like, I truly think that the college you're meant to be at, the university you're meant to be at, is the one you're going to go to. And I think that first job is going to be the right situation for you. And even if you get that first job and it's not something you love, try to find ways to kind of like that first internship that maybe taught you what you didn't want to do. That's totally okay. And I think that with social media nowadays, and social media is a highlight reel, and not every day is going to be sunshine and rainbows. And the way you can kind of push through that is just, knowing that every opportunity is the right one for you, will find you the right one for you. I'm a believer that it's already written, that everything is already and what's going to happen is what's going to happen. And as long as you're taking the actionable steps every single day, like I would try to reach out to 5 people a day, like, or, apply to a job a day, or, as long as you're actively taking those steps, the right thing is going to find you. And, I kind of said it earlier, like the worst someone could say is no, or the worst someone could say is, I'm sorry, but not right now. And if you're kind of finding that, especially if you want to be on camera in particular, that certain jobs aren't lining up, start a podcast, do some, like our phones are cameras right here. Like, start posting on social media. It's crazy what social media can do nowadays, if you are consistent with it. So those are kind of a few different things. Like if you are kind of in a place where nothing is hitting, start that passion project they've always wanted to do and see where that takes you, or just continue to actively reach out and keep the faith, because you can go down a spiral. I think there was a time that I kind of went down that spiral a little bit of nothing's working, that negative talk. If you just keep that positive talk, it'll make it a lot more enjoyable.
Yeah, it's so important to have that ability to kind of just revert back after hearing no, like, oh, okay, it was a no this time, but also no one means that with malicious intentions, I like to think, or I like to hope so, but I do believe that you can always reach out to that person again if it means that much to you, and if it's something you truly believe that it's a place where you want to work, want to pursue, then reach back out to that person. It's going to find you, or another opportunity is going to find you that's probably an even better fit. So you never know what's going to happen, and it is important to just kind of continue on that path and not let those things get to you too much. So I like that you said that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, kind of starting to wrap things up a little bit. Where do you see yourself? I guess what's next for you? What are your goals right now? What do you want to keep pursuing?
Yeah, I think right now I'm just trying to get better every single day. Find, who Destiny Sanchez is on camera, what my personality, what it comes natural to me. But I just really hope that I can continue telling impactful stories. And I think there's, in particular, a lot of impactful stories within sport. And I hope that I can build that reputation to create a safe space for athletes to feel that they can share their story if they want to. I think that maybe somebody that wasn't originally a sports fan could relate to athletes that maybe have gone through adversity or struggle, or everybody has a journey. Everyone went through something to get to where they are. So I just really hope that I can continue to share stories like that wherever I am, and always continue to pursue the passion and meet incredible people along the way, like yourself. But yeah, it's a fun job. It's a demanding job, but you can impact a lot of people along the way by telling stories.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, I'm so excited for you. It's so much fun.
I'm excited for you. I'm excited to see how you spend your last year at Indiana. And yeah, I'm really excited that we got connected, and I'm excited about your podcast, Fierce in the Field. I think the concept is great, and the title, everything. So
thank you. I appreciate that. I was like, I know, like, going on TikTok, I was like, okay, because I was kind of doing it where I was just, finding local people in Chicago to talk to, but I was like, no, I want to make this a bigger thing. I want to go on TikTok. So I feel like the support that I've gotten from that, and I'm so thankful that I met you through there. So yeah, it's been great.
Well, thanks for having me on.
Of course. If you're ever in Chicago, come say bye. But I appreciate you so much. So thank you so much. And I'll send the video over to you, and I'll let you know how everything goes. But you want to shout out your socials or anything before?
Sure. You can follow me on Instagram, TikTok. It's Destiny Sanchez X. I post the most on those two. So yeah, absolutely.
Yay. Okay, well, thank you guys so much. I hope you guys go find Destiny on everything. Go check her out. She is so talented, and I am so happy that we were able to have a conversation today. But I'll see you guys soon, and thank you.
Thank you. Bye.